Do good grades define our entire lives? When students succeed, every uncle and auntie showers them with praise. It's the biggest source of pride and status. And when they fail, they're ridiculed for being stupid, yelled at, emotionally blackmailed, beaten up, or driven to self-harm at worst. How did we get to this point when the pressure on students never stops? The problem begins with how India's education system is designed. After independence, the Indian government wanted to create a standardized system of education to eradicate illiteracy, among other goals. So all secondary schools had to work with an examination board. As India opened up to global markets, more schools started opening up, including private ones. Because private schools could get away with charging really high fees and usually attracted students from higher economic backgrounds, the industry of education started booming and became much more competitive. In 2011, 25% of all schools were private, but they accounted for 40% of total student enrollment. Almost half of all students were going to private schools. There are almost 1.5 million schools in India, each ranked by the average marks that their students get. The more marks that the students bring in, the more prestigious the school. Meanwhile, the quality of public education became increasingly worse. So both kinds of students had to turn to coaching classes and private tuitions. According to the Hindustan Times, 71 million students were taking private tuitions in 2016. To add to that, private tutors can charge anywhere between 1,000 and 4,000 rupees per hour per student. In other words, the Indian private education system became a really profitable business, valued at $100 billion. For many families, this can be a huge financial strain, which adds to the pressure that the students are already facing. They needed to give their parents a return on that investment. They had to be class toppers, they had to get better jobs, they had to do well. And to do that, they had to get into good colleges. Which leads us to the problem of high-stakes testing. Getting admission into good colleges in India is extremely cutthroat. For instance, Delhi University's Sri Ram College of Commerce has 400 slots for admission and more than 28,000 total applications each year. That's barely a 2% acceptance rate. As a result, the entire focus of secondary education became excelling at these tests. The tests themselves emphasized memory over analysis. So most students and schools started relying on rote learning to avoid even the slightest mistakes, and often they were rewarded for it. The better you did at these tests, the more likely you were to get into science, technology, engineering, or math fields. Why is STEM so highly valued and so popular? As India industrialized after independence, there was a huge need for engineering degrees to help the country rebuild. Even though these degrees are no longer needed in the same way that they were 70 years ago, students who pursue science fields are stereotypically viewed as smarter, and that return on investment seems a lot more promising. Higher paying jobs, higher social status, and sometimes even an easier visa pathway if you decide to settle abroad. So it makes sense why so many students feel pressure to study science, even if they lack the interest or the passion. Does all this pressure on students really guarantee success? Is it worth it? Especially for people from low-income communities or lower castes, education can be a form of social mobility. And understandably, a lot rides on being academically successful. But all students are conditioned from a young age to believe that the grades they get are equal to their value as a person, which is simply not true. The fear of failure runs so deep, and without adequate mental health facilities, many students cannot cope. In 2018 alone, over 10,000 students died by suicide, many as a result of failing their exams. That's a horrific amount. Even students who become class toppers through rote learning can struggle to fit in and flourish once they're out of school. With the global job market constantly evolving, there is no magic degree that will guarantee success or a lucrative career. Many movies and pop culture are encouraging parents to evolve and adapt to new ways of thinking. Schools should inspire students to think of new ideas, to think critically, skills that will be far more useful in the long term. While efforts are being made, the stigma over bad grades still persists. Perhaps with time, Indians can unlearn the dangerous beliefs that have been drilled into us since day one.